on paper, I've achieved my goal. Like I have this title, I'm working at a cool company, and I was never unhappier. I just didn't really like the job. I liked doing the work and I liked rolling up my sleeves and problem solving, but I wasn't good at all the things that I needed to be good at to become a team lead. And then I said, once in a while, some random person hits me up on LinkedIn and says, Andrew, could I pick your brain? I'm leading a growth team. I'm a few steps behind where you're at today from where it looks like from the outside looking in. Could I talk to you? And I always said yes, because it was flattering.
Welcome to Growth Mates. This is Kate Suma, Growth Advisor, previously Head of Growth Design at Mira. Here you can learn how companies like Dropbox, Adobe, Canva, Loom, and many more are building excellent products and growth culture. Get all episodes and a free playbook for growth teams on our brand new website, growthmates.club. In this episode, I had the pleasure of speaking with Andrew Capland, coach for heads of growth, previously director of growth at Wistia, and one of the most supportive people I've recently met in the advising community. By the end of this episode, you can learn about new rituals to introduce in your growth team work, the most impactful experiment on pricing from Wistia, and more ways to uncover growth opportunities if you feel stuck. To receive all episodes directly in your inbox, subscribe to growthmates.club. With that, let's dive in after a short announcement. This episode is brought to you by Appcues, the platform that helps you design, deploy, and test captivating onboarding experiences in minutes, not weeks. Appcues created the Product Adoption Academy, which includes courses, templates, and examples to help you level up your product adoption, and you can use it entirely for free. Check out the 5-step growth flow review template, which I created to help companies connect growth hypotheses with behavioral patterns to uncover meaningful improvements. Find an example of Dropbox Onboarding inside and use this template to review any growth flows in your product. Get the template through the link appcues.com/growthmates.
What I learned was that I could be just as impactful with qualitative data as I could with quantitative.
Hello, Andrew. Welcome to Growth Mates. How are you doing this morning?
I'm doing great. I've got it's a beautiful morning. We had torrential rain for like a day and a half straight, but today the sun is shining. I'm going out of town this weekend. Feeling good.
Amazing. Same for me here in Amsterdam. Finally, summer is coming. And I'm so excited to have you here today and to discuss all the things we can about product-led growth and maybe sharing some inspiration with our listeners. But first, let me just share a couple of words about your background. So you started as long ago as one of the first 200 people at HubSpot. Then you also built the whole growth function at Wistia. After that, you've been advising different companies, supported dozens of them. And now you're positioning yourself as a coach for heads of growth, which is super interesting thing to do probably. And I'm very curious, how did you got where you are today and what is the mission that you are currently driving?
Yeah. Well, thank you for the kind words. I kind of fell into this. I made this up. Like a coach for people who work in growth isn't a real job. But what happened for me was all my career goals were once I learned about this world of freemium and product-led growth and kind of working in growth teams and leading growth teams, I didn't want to do anything else. And so all my career goals were to eventually become director of growth at like a cool tech company. And so I was fortunate enough, I worked at Wistia. I was leading our growth efforts there. I was like growth team lead for a while. It's kind of mix of like growth marketer, growth product manager, and kind of leading a small team of a designer and an engineer. And then eventually we scaled from there. And I got promoted after a few years of that. And I was like, man, on paper, I've achieved my goal. Like I have this title, I'm working at a cool company, and I was never unhappier. I just didn't really like the job. I liked doing the work and I liked rolling up my sleeves and problem solving, but I wasn't good at all the things that I needed to be good at to become a team lead. The sharing, the presenting, the getting alignment with the leaders, the defending my roadmaps, the begging for resources. I just didn't like that part of the job. And so I felt lost and I felt kind of depressed. And I was like, man, my whole identity was to get to this point. And now I'm here and I feel unfulfilled. What do I do? And so I started working with a professional coach who I hired to fix me. I was like, there's something wrong with me. I should have so much gratitude for where I am. I should feel good. I think I've made it, but instead I feel miserable. And she had me do this exercise where she had me write down all the things that I did in a given week and how it made me feel. And, I wrote out like Mondays, I do planning meetings with my team. And then Tuesdays, I do one-on-ones. And then Wednesdays, I sync with the head of product. And Thursdays, I sync with the head of marketing. And all those things I said make me feel okay. And then I said, once in a while, some random person hits me up on LinkedIn and says, Andrew, could I pick your brain? I'm leading a growth team. I'm a few steps behind where you're at today from where it looks from the outside looking in. Could I talk to you? And I always said yes, because it was flattering. And I realized I really liked it. And I was okay at it. It seemed like sometimes it was helpful and they wanted to do it again. And that was an indicator that maybe I was providing some value. And so I shared that with my coach. And she said, well, you might have something there. What if the next time somebody reaches out and asks you for advice, you say, yes, here's my rate. And 3 years ago, I decided to do that full time. And that's kind of where I'm at today. So my mission is really just to help others. Like, my goal is to impact as many individuals in the growth community as possible. That's why I write free content on LinkedIn. It's why I have a podcast myself. And it's why I like working with folks to try to help them make more of an impact in their role.
Wonderful. It feels like we are on the same mission from different sides, from different perspectives, but trying to help other products build better products and grow simultaneously. That really resonated with me, and also what you've shared about like helping others while we're still on your full-time track. To be honest, for me, it felt just fulfilling. It's like a fresh air. It's a fresh perspective, because I don't know how much time have you spent at Wistia? Like, how many years?
I was there for 4.5 years.
4.5. Like, it's a lot of time. And you were purely focused on one product every single day for 4.5 years. It's a lot. And when you just start looking at other products, I think it also makes you a more professional, like, thought leader overall, and like you can do your job even better if you have diverse experience and diverse perspective every day. And as you've gained that probably diverse perspective after shifting to this advising and coaching for the next 3 years, what is your philosophy right now when it comes to building like sustainable product growth? Has anything changed since your time of being a director at Wistia, if you compare where you are right now in your philosophy and where you were that time?
My philosophy is actually pretty similar. So when I went on my own, I very purposely decided not to call it, so I called it delivering value. And that is my philosophy to growth. I was always okay at the spreadsheets. What I learned was that I could be just as impactful with qualitative data as I could with quantitative. And so the heart of my approach has been to figure out what is value in our users or customers' minds, and then how can we deliver that value in creative ways? And sometimes that's removing stuff like friction and unnecessary steps. Sometimes it's adding things. Sometimes it's segmenting in different ways. But that has always been the heart of my philosophy, and it continues to be today. The main thing that has changed for me, I'm sure you saw this too, like when you're in-house, you have a sample size of 1. So every challenge you face, you're like, man, I've got to stumble my way through the dark to figure out this challenge. I'm going to try 8 different experiments to see if I can problem solve this problem that I see. And eventually, hopefully, you're able to solve that. And you always wonder, was it us? Did we screw something up? Did we think about it the wrong way? And what's nice is now as a coach and as an advisor, I get a wide variety of inputs. So I get to see trends a little bit differently than I could in the past. So I've seen some of the tactical things change, but I think the crux of my approach has still stayed pretty consistent.
Love it. And talking about like observing different trends and connecting the dots, probably, this is what I was doing a couple of like months ago. And I think when this episode will be launched, we will already publish this playbook for growth teams that we've been carefully preparing for the first Growth Mates anniversary. And in order to complete it, I've also ran a survey, and already almost, I think, 100 people completed that. And these people are from both like early stage startups. I think it's like about 48%. And the remaining part is like Series A+, Series B, and scale-ups. And one of the questions on the survey was like a matrix where they had to select the level of challenge for different areas, for different focuses for growth. from like not challenging to very challenging or slightly challenging, or if they are not working on that at all. And from analyzing this data, there are 5 themes that like were very prominent, that were very challenging across the board, across like for both segments. I just love doing that. I cannot stop doing research, even like being a solopreneur. And what I wanted to do today is to discuss each of these 5 challenges that appear with you and give your perspective, your knowledge, your tactics, your practices, how to address them. And just do this co-creation and brainstorming exercise with you. So are you ready to do that?
Hell yeah. Yeah, that sounds awesome. And thank you for like kind of giving me a sneak peek at some of this stuff. But yeah, let's put our heads together.
Absolutely. So I will not reveal all of them, not to overwhelm our listeners. So we will start from one of the first things that appeared there. So one of the most challenging or very challenging thing that people selected was building growth processes. And it's quite ambiguous challenge probably. But I was wondering first, what are your thoughts on why it's so challenging for companies in different like stages to build these growth processes? And second, what is one maybe most impactful ritual that you would recommend to early stage companies that are trying to build this product-led growth motion that they can just maybe try out after listening to this episode?
I think it's challenging because growth is still new and it's ambiguous. And most people, I don't think, still really understand what growth is, what it has ownership and accountability over. And even those that do, it's different at every company and every size company. It's different at B2B versus B2C, and it's different at a really early stage company than it is at a scale up versus a mature company. And I think that's what makes it challenging, is that there isn't a one size fits all playbook for a growth operating system. And so I think a lot of working in growth is figuring out, based on the context that we're working in, the resources that we have available, what stuff can we do, and then what would be the most important, most impactful stuff within that. So I think that's why it's challenging. And I think regardless of the size that you're at, one of the most impactful rituals, I guess I would call it, or habits that my teams have done and that I have done is something that I call Full Story Fridays. So I shared the crux of my approach is understanding what's valuable to users and then delivering that value in creative ways. And one of the main ways that you can figure out where should you focus and what's either preventing folks from getting value or what things are broken or what experiences are working well is to get really close to the user. So there's a tool called Full Story, but there's other similar tools out there that basically allow you to look over the shoulder of someone as they use your product. So it's screen recordings essentially. And this is one of the things that I used to love doing. So every Friday I would grab my cross-functional growth team. We would sit in a conference room, we'd grab lunch, we'd spend an hour and we'd watch 20 people go through our new user onboarding flow or whatever it was that we were focused on at that time, signing up all the way through swiping their credit card and upgrading. And we would just take notes. And sometimes we'd see weird bugs and we'd see them rage clicking on elements that they shouldn't be rage clicking, and they'd be highlighting text that was confusing, that didn't make sense. Or sometimes they would translate the app into another language and we were like, oh my God, we didn't even realize that people were doing that. What does it look like in that language? How often does that happen? And so it just opened up all of these questions. And a lot of my job was figuring out which of these questions should we explore deeper and which should we prioritize and which could really unlock a little bit more of our growth. So that's something that I think everybody can do. If you don't have a tool like Full Story, you can go do user testing. You can do it in person. You can ask people who are strangers that haven't used your tool before to sign up, to go through the process. You can take notes, ask them open-ended questions, see what they say, or you can pay users and do that asynchronously using a usertesting.com or a similar product out there where you can pay people that kind of meet the profile of your ICP.
Yeah, this is so cool. Rachel, I love that anybody can try it out, even if you don't have yet your like ecosystem of data and all these complex things. From my perspective, maybe my ritual would be for companies who already have some experimentation in place. But one of my favorite rituals that we've introduced at Mira was experimentation quiz or experiment quiz to analyze the results of the experiment in a group and uncover the root cause behind that in this quiz format. So I also have a template for that. We're happy to attach it to the show Basically, we were doing this on design reviews, but then later on, everybody started doing them in their cross-functional team. So you collect your experiment results, but you are not showing them right away. You're showing the solutions only. And everybody in the room are trying to assume which variation was the winner and why.
Oh,
And
fun. Yeah, that's really
they
fun.
are putting their ideas on sticky notes, especially people who have never worked on this experiment. Sometimes they give so interesting assumptions that it just inspires new iterations for the team who is working on that. And then the person who is facilitating that meeting is like revealing the insights and the results. And sometimes they are so shocking and surprising that nobody understands why it happened. And then everybody starts to discuss and figure out how to iterate on that, what we can do. So first, like positive effect is that you share the knowledge across the group, and it's learn by doing approach. So you probably know that if you create a document or like a knowledge base of all the experiments results, nobody will remember them. But if they started thinking about what happened, why it happened, it will be in their mind forever, or at least for several months. And so this is the first like value, is that you are sharing the knowledge across the team. And the second value is that they help you create the iterations. So you don't need to sit down like alone and think of that, but everybody like can give you some ideas, and sometimes there are just too many of them to iterate further. So that ritual was very helpful and probably most impactful growth process that I've introduced. Moving forward, so we just discussed the first challenge. We have 4 more to go. The second one, and I've just checked the results because new responses appeared, and I think now this is the first challenge that is like on the rating, is driving monetization and revenue targets. Probably this is also connected to the market reality where we are today, and it's quite challenging for companies of all sizes. However, there are some interesting trends that appear in, like reverse trials and other tactics. And I wanted to ask you, what was maybe one successful experiment or tactic or strategy that you tried in your practice in order to move the needle in that direction, in monetization, expansion, these revenue targets, which are usually quite tough?
Yeah, I'm not surprised that this is number one, right? I feel like every growth team struggles with this. And sometimes internally, it's even hard to take on pricing and optimize on the monetization side. So I was fortunate enough to work at a company that craved it. And so during my time at Wistia, we did a ton of pricing experimentation. My team probably shipped 10 different versions of pricing and packaging over the years. And what I learned is that it's a huge lever. And obviously the change in price has an instant impact on conversion volume. But what I also learned is that the way that you package the plans is equally as important. So the example that's standing out in my mind is during our pricing project or our optimization time, we tested different price points. We tried $75, we tried $99, we tried $100, we tried $125, we tried $150 for kind of the base level plan. And we landed on it being $100 a month. And we said, great, for $100 a month, it comes with 10 videos. And if you need any more videos, it's like 25 cents for every additional piece of media that you upload. And when we did user testing, every single person was like, $100 a month for 10 videos, that's $10 a video. I don't know if our videos are worth $10 a month. We got that little one that's like a silly cat thing. We got this other video that's sort of a fun culture video. I don't know if we want to pay for it. Everybody did that. And it was a barrier to conversion. We changed nothing. The exact same plan, the exact same price. We said $100 a month, and the first 10 are for free, 25 cents for any additional videos. And then the people who viewed the page went, oh, $100 a month for all those features? That's pretty solid. And then they would just convert much quicker. And the perception was that there was more value included in the plans, and they focus more on the features than the price per video. So same plan, dramatic difference in perception.
Wonderful. I think it's also deeply connected with some behavioral, like cognitive psychology principles here. It's not the loss aversion, but it's something that, yeah, you're getting some value right away, sort of for free or something connected to that. Yeah. And then
I even heard that like at hotels, they do this. that if there's two hotels and one's $199 a night and another's $199 a night with unlimited free coffee, that people say the second one is more valuable. And it's like, it's free coffee. Like it's a $2 worth of coffee, but it's little things.
Absolutely. And I think there is also a good user experience in the end, because pricing usually is like very sensitive area in terms of avoiding dark patterns. Oh my God, like all these hacks and things are happening usually there. But here I don't see any dark things happening. It's actually like just packaging the value in a different manner and still delivering that to end users. Yeah, very interesting example. I love it. Moving forward, let's do the third one. The third challenge that was also mentioned in the survey was around acquiring new users and like ICP in particular. And I've noticed that you've recently shared your thoughts on the old versus new playbook for growth. And in that playbook, or like your post about that, you shared what principles are already outdated and some examples of new things that companies can try out. And the example that you gave there was embedding a more interactive version of your product on the website. And I found it quite interesting because I've been actively sharing also with my clients and on my course the things how you should show the value of your product, like how you should show it across different touch points, starting from like very, very early stages. And you added this idea of interactive version of adding that version on the website. So do you have any examples of companies who are doing that, or some evidence why it might be a successful or promising thing for acquisition purposes?
Yeah. I'll share a little bit of background, then I'll share some examples. We got to a point where we were generating a ton of signups and retention was an issue. And for us, we wanted folks to take action in their first user session and ideally receive some value. And there was a large population of people that would sign up, they'd poke around for like 30 seconds. They would do nothing inside of the tool, and then they would leave and they'd never come back. And we were so frustrated. We're like, what are these people doing? What is their use case? Why are they signing up if they're just going to poke around and leave and they have no intention? And so we tried all these surveys and we tried talking to folks. And the main hypothesis was they signed up for research. They just wanted to see the product. They weren't ready to use it. They weren't ready to buy. They might become a buyer in 6 months, but they didn't have a real need yet. They were just poking around doing a little bit of research for the future. And we were frustrated because 1, they signed up, they got no value. 2, it clouded up all of our data because now we had all this noise in our numbers, and it ended up becoming a large population of people that we wanted to filter out. And it didn't actually provide value to them because they didn't do anything inside of the tool anyways. So we thought, what if we made a lightweight version of the tool? We put it on the website, let people play with it. Those people who were never going to sign up don't need to sign up. And those who do sign up will sign up having already built some product momentum. And so initially, my team built an interactive version of the tool, both at Wistia and at Postscript. What we saw is the total number of signups actually went down a little bit, but the number of qualified signups went up, and the total number of activated accounts also went up. So it's become a core part of my personal playbook when I work with companies. I'll usually encourage them to build some flavor of this. Our team also did this at the most recent company when I was in-house. After Wistia, I worked at another company called Postscript, which is one of the largest Shopify apps. It's a text message marketing tool for Shopify brands. And we built an interactive version of the product that people could use before signing up. The conversion rates were through the roof of people who were on the website that interacted with it. And we were hearing, like in our chats, in our intercom chats, people said, hey, I bought because of that. It was so cool. I got to see it. I got to really see it in action. That was a huge reason because I wasn't sure what it would actually look like in the wild. And so I've seen other companies do this, like V.io is a cool example. One of my former clients is called Coliseum. They have an AI tool for making AI video at scale. And you can use all of these tools logged out, basically, right from the homepage. There's even like a whole category of no-code tools to help people do this, like Mixpanel, I think, uses a no-code tool. Appcues.com has got a version of an interactive demo using no-code tools or low-code tools. So I'm seeing a lot of these in the wild. And for now, it's like everything in growth. There's no absolutes. You can't say this works across the board, but I'm seeing a lot of interesting use cases with a lot of success right now.
Very nice. Very interesting to hear so many like examples around that. I think I've been aware of some experiments like with lightweight versions of the product, and the risks with that, just to elaborate on them maybe a little bit, that sometimes this lightweight version can cannibalize the, let's say, the free version of the product if there is a strategy to promote it separately. If it's not a part of the website, if it's not a part of some, I don't know, a separate landing page with some like explanation of the use cases, but it like literally a lightweight product, it can cannibalize the overall like perception of the free version of the plan. And like just people go there and they don't go to the real website, don't sign up there. That was something that I learned, I think, from my experience. And now what I've seen working well is like this combination of the website and the playful version on the website that people can interact with, which also like a great way to show them good stuff and good user experience. I think one of the most important components of product-led growth that I'm constantly like keeping reminding is like the actual user experience. Because if we don't have a high quality user experience, there is nothing to do with the product-led growth. And we should be enough confident to show that value right away, even before users are registering. And we should be proud of what we are showing there actually. So if you don't have this experience yet, give it a try and drive your acquisition. And the next challenge that appeared, it's also like a connection to this acquisition moment. It's of course activation. Like improving activation and user onboarding is one of the challenges that companies see right now, and one of the priorities, by the way. Another question on that survey was like, what are the top like priorities for the next 12 months? And one of the most selected was like activation and user onboarding for companies. What is your advice for companies when it comes to activation and when they are trying to define their aha moment, for example?
It's really easy to overcomplicate. And I feel like most companies, at least at first, like if you're doing this for the first time, I think the easiest, most like bite-sized, approachable way to do it is to go talk to people who recently either were using your free product in a meaningful way or recently pulled out their credit card and purchased, and ask them, hey, thanks so much for becoming a customer or a user. Could you go back in time and tell us the moment when you felt like you first really got the value of the tool? And just see what they say. Go qualitative. And I did this at Postscript. It was an early stage company. They had, I forget how, 100 customers or something like that, but had really started to hit their stride and was going quickly. And I did this, where I just talked to recent customers that were really happy. And I asked them, what was the moment? And for the most part, they all use different words to describe very, very similar things. And so then what I did is I then went looking in the data and just looked for, does the data support this? So they're saying it's this moment. People who do this moment, are they more likely to continue using and to eventually pull out their credit card and buy? People who aren't doing this thing, are they less likely? And the answer was yes. And so that is a really good starting point for anybody looking to define this metric for the first time. Start with the qualitative, then mix in the quantitative.
Interesting. Love the combination of qualitative and quantitative, especially for folks who are just introducing that. Sometimes they feel very, blocked and overwhelmed because they then don't have data ecosystem. And you can do that. You can do it qualitatively. And the method that I would also recommend to at least to read or to get inspired by is diary studies. It's the method of qualitative user research that helps you to observe the real user behavior on the go. So you can start observing, let's say, 10 customers who have from early days and see how and when they achieve this aha moment and receive the value of the product. We can talk about that for a very, very long time. It's I think there is a Reforge course to take just to get an idea of how to measure properly the activation and user onboarding. I will also attach some things, and in the playbook there will be the whole section around the activation and user onboarding that you can look at. Moving forward, and I think there is one last thing, and probably we will spend a little bit more time on that. The last challenge that companies selected was uncovering growth opportunities, which is interesting because I'm wondering what we can do to help companies like uncover some ways or frameworks or tools that they can try out internally to uncover new growth opportunities. And from other side, maybe we can discuss advising why we even are doing the things we are doing, why it can be helpful, and discuss maybe some misunderstandings that somehow like appeared on the market about consulting, advising, and why sometimes companies are not sure about that. But first, let's just think of some things that companies can try out without us, like just go in and try things to uncover new growth opportunities.
Yeah, it's hard. The starting point for me is usually to put together some type of high-level model that just outlines how the company grows, right? If it's a product-led company, whether it's freemium or free trial, something that kind of outlines the main steps from being a stranger to converting into a paying customer, and ideally maybe how that even helps you drive more paying customers down the road. But I think if you can put together a high-level model, there's two ways that you can explore that model to find high-level opportunities. So one is you can look at the numbers that you see in there and compare them to benchmarks. And there's all kinds of resources to find SaaS benchmarks at different sizes and stages. OpenView has some great PLG benchmarks for folks, and there's a few other resources like that. But that would be one way, certainly an easy place to start. The other thing that you can do is with this model is to play with, if you were to increase one of the numbers in your model, whether it's number of signups or number of activated accounts or maybe number of total active free users if it's a freemium tool, or people that are taking action inside the free tool and how that leads to new additional users inside of your growth model over time, and play with that and see where do you get the most leverage. So not so much like what numbers are underperforming, but if we could move one of these numbers, which ultimately will help us grow the business fastest. And so one of those two ways should lead you to ideally maybe one or two metrics that you want to focus on. So that's a good quantitative exercise. And then what I like to do is then zoom in on that and see, hey, for this step, let's really break this step up more granularly. Is there, and you can do it essentially the same exercise, is there a step within this step as we zoom in, or a channel or a micro moment or a segment or whatever it is that if we were to move the needle on, it really unlocks a lot of leverage for us. So I like to think about it like that. I usually start with the spreadsheet here, and then you could combine this exercise with the full story exercise I started with. And that would be a great way to identify high-level opportunities and then to look for things that you could fix and parts of the user experience with the qualitative side.
Mm-hmm. And on that note, I just wanted to add, because I'm coming from the product design perspective, this qualitative side or this actual product thinking side is crucial here. I would recommend probably just go and registering your product from scratch. I had just doing this exercise, I think every quarter, and the team who was working on activation was doing this exercise every month, just signing up to the product you are building and just walk through all the steps that you are walking through, and you will uncover plenty of growth opportunities, I'm sure.
Oh, tons of stuff, right? Tons of things like that.
The next problem to solve will be to prioritize them properly, but it's the next problem to solve. To uncover them, you can register and see what is happening there. The second thing can be also to constantly get some inspiration from other products. Just being active, looking at what other great products are building and shipping, especially the ones who are on top of that product-led growth game. You can create a list of 5 products who you would like to observe and 5 close competitors, and regularly check in what they are doing, what new things they are trying out, and it can inspire some of your strategy and big bets. And then also maybe doing it collaboratively with the team, not just doing it alone, collecting the group, doing some workshop around these high-level things you've uncovered in the spreadsheet. And then you will have a compelling roadmap probably for the next 6 months. And on that note, this will be probably a provocative question. Why do you think we are here? Why do you think people like you or me can be helpful in that situation? Have you observed the actual cases when you've seen that your help was meaningful in a way of uncovering growth opportunities? When you came, something Like you brought some fresh perspective, or you shifted the mental model in a direction that helped to unlock the team and to uncover these growth opportunities by themselves. So how do you see it looking back?
It's a great question. I think there's a few reasons. I think the value that someone like you or I provides is a few things. One, a lot of companies have no idea where they should be focused, right? They see all these opportunities. They might do a bunch of the things that you and I talked about today, and they come back with a laundry list of 100 things. And then they pick based on what they're most excited about, or what they have the resources to do, or what they saw over the weekend and saw it in the wild another company was doing. And they thought, oh, that would be cool. Let's do that next week. And they don't know where they should focus. So they work with someone like us to figure out, this is what I think. Am I missing something? Do you see it a different way? Am I analyzing these things the right way, or should I be focused somewhere else? So I think it's figuring out where to focus. And then I think a lot of the value that I have seen is systems to find the right answer. So I think a lot of these people, even if they know, hey, I should be focused on activation, or, I'm trying to optimize my interactive demo or something like that, they need help. I just lost my train of thought. They need help problem solving. And they're like, I don't want to make some silly decisions. I need help figuring out what the right answer is. Can you share a process that would help us to figure out the right answer? And usually what I say is, yeah, I don't know the answer, but here's how I'd find it. I'd go talk to these customers. I would do 10 user sessions. I would ask some flavor of these 5 questions in the user interviews that you do, and then come back to me with those answers. I think that will reveal the segments that we need to start filtering by. It might reveal a couple more questions that we might want to go back and ask some follow-up questions to the users about, or it might reveal some very obvious things that need to be fixed that you could do very quickly that might have a big impact. And so it's usually that. It's like the systems to find the right answer. And a lot of times people don't know, or they know so many things, they're overwhelmed about which tool to use in the moment because they went to Reforge, or they follow a bunch of people on social media, and there's so many things in their head that they can't organize them. And someone like you or I can help with that process, is what I've seen.
Yeah, interesting. I totally agree with just providing some system, some clarity. And one of the things I've heard in terms of expectations, people are looking for some shortcuts sometimes. Sometimes they're stuck, they are just thinking about solving the same problem for a long time, and they need to do it efficiently and maybe faster, just relying on some experienced people and do this in a shortcut way. But there is one, or there probably are several misunderstandings or expectations that we can mitigate as we are providing these services. And one of them I took from the survey, actually. So the response was consultants have not paid off because we had to do the learning and work regardless. So we may as well just do it. So our company is not keen to re-engage with consultants. And what is interesting here, first, this consultants component, because advising and consulting are a bit different things. And maybe there is an expectation sometimes with advisors is also to delegate some stuff and to have the right answer as a result of that. And I'm thinking this is not the right expectations. I'm thinking that the ideal partnership is working with advisor is actually thinking partnership. And the results or magic is happening as a result of this partnership and this conversation. It's not some, tips and tricks that we can share that will work 100%. This is not the expectation. This is not reliable. But it's the thinking partnership and upskilling the person who is coming to you, and through this person, upskilling the broader team and probably the organization. But what are your thoughts on that? Because I don't know if you face that limiting belief about advisors or not, but as you are more experienced on that track, I'm very curious to hear what is your perspective.
I think we'll help you figure out one of 3 things. So I think it's either we're trying to do better and we have no idea what to do, or it's we've been doing a bunch of stuff and we think we're missing something obvious. We need somebody to help us problem solve it, or things aren't going well. We need somebody to help us fix it. And the third instance of working with someone like us is I have an opportunity to build something great, and I need someone who knows what great looks like to help us get there. And what I always say is whatever the problem is, I will help you problem solve it. But we need resources to execute, because without the senior doers, it doesn't matter how many good ideas you have. Like execution is where the rubber hits the road. And so for me, I try to make it really clear, I'm going to give more things to your team. I'm going to assign more action items to your team, but ideally I'm going to take a bunch of their distractions away as well. Because I can almost guarantee if I start working with your team as an advisor, I'm going to identify 25% of their time where they're probably focused on things that aren't going to be high leverage. So ideally, I'll help put those on the not right now list and replace them with higher leverage activities, but they're still going to have to do the work. I'll just make sure that it's the most impactful work.
Nice. I love that.
That's how I phrase it.
The way you phrased it. Yeah, definitely. And again, it's also about providing this fresh perspective, because I think sometimes like the situation like that is happening because team is doing the same thing, like just differently and repeating, like just very, very sort of locked in that loop. And sometimes bringing fresh perspective really helps. Honestly, I've also noticed, because I'm still fresh, I've been like 6 months on that track, and I still remember how is it on like full-time track. I remember that when you're a full-time employee in a company, like in a good, like scaled company, very dedicated to that, you don't have time to look around, to explore what's happening across the industry, to explore how other people are doing the same thing. And advisors are actually doing that full-time or almost full-time. They're talking to others, they're doing the podcast, they're doing newsletters or other things, reading a lot of stuff to help others gain that missing like knowledge or perspective that they just don't have time on. So this is another value I think just useful to highlight.
Yeah. I mean, I guess the last thing I would add to that is I think if you're going to hire someone to support your business, they need to know what your future looks like. So they need to have been past where you're at. It can't be that they know a lot of academic information, but have never actually had to execute on that, because there's a big difference between sort of like knowing the best practices and going to school and then being someone who's been in the trenches as an operator, who's had to problem solve and work through the resource constraints and be in the meeting where you've got to talk about like, hey, I know I'm proposing something that's hard and uncomfortable organizationally. Here's why it's worth it. Like they're totally different things to have been an operator. And so I think if you hire a former operator, that's the best advisor you could ever possibly have. And so obviously I don't know, the person who said, hey, we hired some consultants and it didn't work out. Hopefully they weren't former operators. Maybe if they were, there was just a misaligned expectations there. But I think that's what I look for, or that's what I would look for if I was in-house and I was bringing someone in. We've got good junior doers here. We've got people who can execute with a high level of rigor, with attention to detail, but we need help figuring out what things we should be focused on and what good looks like. And finding someone who can do that, like that to me is what being a good advisor is all about.
Absolutely love it. And I think it's also a rare or like interesting combination of skills when you've been an operator and builder, but then you build the entire team, the processes, you hired people. So it's your path at Wistia when you like passed from growth leader to like being more hands-on to less hands-on and build this entire like organism to operate without your like hands-on involvement. In my case, I've been doing like a lot of product design across the different parts of like the growth funnel and then built the team for that. And however, in advising, I feel more like my brain is more in a builder mode sometimes. Like I'm just thinking more of the times when I was building or when I was observing how actual teammates were building these experiences than this people management component. But yeah, it's an interesting combination of skills I think people should look for in advisors ideally. Probably this transition from a builder to a people manager or like people leader is an interesting combination of skills. And just to wrap up this chapter, very, very long part of our conversation about the 5 challenges, we've discussed all of them. So we started from building growth processes. You gave amazing example of what was the product full story Fridays, and I gave example about this quiz experimentation template. Then we discussed the second challenge, driving monetization revenue targets. Your example from Wistia and how you changed the packaging was amazing. The third one was acquiring new users, and the advice here is to give this interactive version of the product on the website to give it a try. The fourth one was improving activation and user onboarding. and how you can define the aha moment through both qualitative and quantitative research. Even if you don't have data, you can still do that. And the last was about uncovering growth opportunities. And here you can do a lot of things in-house, but also you can ask for help for people like me and you. Thank you so much for such an amazing conversation. I felt it was so practical, and like maybe we can write down all of these things and share it with everyone afterwards. And before we left, just the traditional lightning round of some free-form questions. Don't take a lot of time to think, just share anything that is on top of your mind. So the first one, what's your favorite morning routine? If it's still morning for you. Yeah.
It's morning now. Well, it's almost lunch for me now. But my morning routine kind of has three components. So I wake up, obviously. I've got a 3.5-year-old, so I drop him off at his daycare school for the day. I go to the gym after I drop him off, and then I try to get in a sauna, not every day, but probably like 3 or 4 days a week. And that's like a huge part of my morning routine. I actually went today. I didn't even work out. I only did sauna today. And so that was really, really nice.
Oh, sounds fantastic. I just came back from Japan and they have these onsens, Oh my God, I miss that so much. I wish there would be something like that here in Amsterdam. Like,
wait, what's that? You got to
onsen.
elaborate.
I think if anybody who's listening to that, just Google onsen Japan, whatever. You will see this is like a sort of public sauna, but it's stone, like built from stone, and it's like hot tubes, but with the stones, and it looks amazing. It feels amazing, and it's affordable. It's everywhere, in every building, in every hotel, and it's a part of their routine, actually, in the morning and in the evening, to go to this place to relax and just.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah,
that's amazing.
That's amazing. All right, moving forward. What's the recent high quality experience that you've interacted with? Like it's maybe some product or some exceptional user experience you've noticed?
Yeah, this is a cool question. So recently, it was the Boston Marathon, which is obviously a 26-mile race in the United States, in Boston. My younger sister, Melissa, ran the marathon this year, the first time she's ever done it. And so my family went to cheer her on. We stood at mile 14, and we had signs and everything. And so the marathon had an app, and the app was exceptional. I thought it was going to be a crummy app. And so I downloaded it. It's run by the BAA, which is the Boston Athletic Association. Not like an amazing Silicon Valley tech company. It's like the Boston Athletic Association. But anyways, this app, so I installed it. I typed in her bid number. It told me where she was, how quickly she was going, based on where we were, how long it was going to take her to get there. And I could enter in other people, but I could prioritize like which one I wanted to track first. It told me when she finished, told me when she was approaching, where we were seeing. It was incredible. It was just very simple. And I know enough to know that simple is not easy, that building something simple and intuitive is actually very, very difficult. And it was just a great app. I still haven't deleted it. I don't even know why I haven't deleted it, but it just was a dope app, and I just feel like I want to save it.
I love when sometimes you can find these examples when you're not expecting them at all. So yeah, we just need to be curious and, just observe things around us. And next one, what's your favorite resource or book to get the inspiration on the topics that we've discussed today?
My honest answer is I like sleuthing. Like what I like to do is I go to companies whose products I look up to, or companies that I think have it figured out, or at least have a high level of maturity. The big players, the Canvas, the Miros, the Airtables of the world. And I sign up for their tools and I go through all their flows. And sometimes I do it more than once to see if I end up in an experiment, either in sign up or in conversion or how they upgrade users or even the cancellation flow. Sometimes I'll buy it just to cancel it and see. Even LinkedIn, I'll do this sometimes where I'll just cancel like my LinkedIn premium just to see what happens. So that's how I find inspiration, or at least ideas, to see what questions are they exploring the answers to as well. So I like doing that. I have read a bunch of the books. Like the book that comes to mind is Hooked, which is by Nir Eyal. It's probably in my little ladder bookshelf behind me. That's obviously a very good one. But a lot of the things I look at now are examples in the wild, and I'm always looking for them.
Oh yeah, thanks for mentioning Nir. I hope one day, fingers crossed, he will come to us. I'm a fan of his book and like sharing it with everybody for the last 5 years. Last thing, because we are like growth mates as a community of people who are like sharing similar values, we are asking every guest who are 3 people who you would like to see here on this show someday. Yeah.
Have you had Romley on already?
uh, I've it's on my to do, I think, to reach out to
Okay,
him.
I was gonna say.
I've been on his show and we are like interacting a lot with him on like Appcues and other things. So I loved when you put his name here, and yeah, definitely.
Because I feel like did he introduce us?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So you got to have Romley on the show. Okay. So Romley's on there.
Yeah.
Have you had Leia on?
No, not yet.
Leia Theron?
Not yet. But I've seen you had her on your show. Yeah.
I did, yes. I will introduce you to her. She's fantastic. I think she would love to chat with you. So she's another one. And then, I don't know, hopefully he's okay with me mentioning it. So Matt Glick is the founder and CEO of a company called Gipper. Gipper is kind of like a Canva for K through 12 and some college sports teams. So they basically have a social asset creation, sharing, and publishing platform for schools that have sports teams. It's really cool. And Matt is their founder and CEO. I worked with them for a little bit, and they are hyper focused on increasing retention, product adoption via user experience. What they're doing is cool. Their product is very visual. It's visual first. And so they're working on some cool stuff. And I think he'd be a really cool person to have on the show and to go a little bit deeper.
Very interesting. I definitely check out his profile and the products. And thank you for being our guest today. And thanks for mentioning all these amazing people and so many insights. I feel like very inspired, and I hope our listeners will find it also useful. Thank you so much.
Thanks for having me.
Sure. Cheers. Thank you for listening. Subscribe to the show on growthmates.club and get free playbook with frameworks and insights. If you find this valuable, please share it with your friends and colleagues, and subscribe to the show on your favorite platforms to get new episodes. Let's keep growing together.